Welcome to my channel. My name is Em, aka Horror, and in today's video it is a compilation of my banned horror movie series. In this video I count down 30 horror movies which have been banned around the world. Before I get into the video, I do just want to put out a trigger warning. This video contains mature themes and mentions SA and child abuse which may affect some individuals. If these themes are likely to cause you upset, please rethink before going forward. If this is the case, you may find another one of my top 10 videos more suitable, and I hope to catch you in my upcoming videos. Maniac, 1980. Maniac follows a man named Frank who was abused by his mother when he was a child. As a result of this, Frank murders women, scalping them and then using their hair for mannequins. The gruesomeness of the movie saw heavy censorship of the film in the US. In Britain, the movie was refused any sort of classification and was banned for video in 1998. Police in Greater Manchester and Lancashire also ended up seizing the video because of its reputation. It was, however, passed with a certification of 18 in 2002, but this version had nearly a minute's worth of cuts. It wasn't until 2022, 41 years after its initial release, that the BBFC approved the full version of the movie with a certificate of 18. The remake of Maniac, starring Elijah Wood in 2012, also saw a negative release, with New Zealand banning the movie because of its graphic violence and content which was deemed disturbing. Martyrs, 2008. A French psychological horror, Martyrs is based around a young woman, Lucy, and her friend, who seek out to find a cult who abused Lucy as a child. Its gore and violence, which includes child abuse, ensured that the movie received the highest possible rating. However, in the US, the movie was banned from theatrical release and instead went straight to DVD release because of its themes. Individuals who watched the movie have been known to walk out vomiting, and some have also fainted. Scenes in the movie include mutilation, someone being skinned alive, and characters unaliving themselves, making this movie one that should be watched after serious consideration of the effects it may have. Ichi the Killer, 2001. With themes that include violence towards women, SA and extreme gore, Ichi the Killer has seen a lot of backlash since its release. This led to cuts being made to the movie before it could be distributed in Britain. Its uncut version was refused release due to scenes of mutilated, SA'd or savagely beaten women, or of sexual pleasure from violence. For it to be released in the UK, 3 minutes had to be cut for the movie to be passed and certified as 18. In Hong Kong, even larger cuts of 17 minutes had to be made. However, the movie has been banned in Norway and Malaysia and is not allowed to be distributed in Germany. Scenes of the movie could cause triggers for some individual, restricting the film's potential audience. I Spit on Your Grave, 1978. Being banned in Norway, Ireland, West Germany and Iceland, I Spit on Your Grave has certainly left its mark. However, it has not only been banned in these countries. Australia made a temporary ban on the film after its recertification in 1997, however it was later re-released in 2004, uncut and rated 18. The UK refused to certify the movie for theatrical release, however as home video distribution had different rules for certification at the time, it was allowed to be released to home video. In 2001 it was removed from the Director of Public Prosecutions list, and a heavily cut version which edited out a large portion of the SA scene was released under an 18 certificate. In 2011, further cuts were made, which reduced the scene even more. The film is based around a woman who is seeking revenge on a group of men who brutally SA her. It is due to the severity of the SA that this movie has been banned and why there is so much controversy around it. It also remains banned in the majority of Canada, with only 3 provinces allowing it to be distributed. Whilst its remake has seen the same sort of criticism, the movie has not had such a hard time when it comes to bans. However, its DVD release was banned in New Zealand. The Exorcist, 1973. Probably one of the most well-known horror movies of all time, The Exorcist caused many a controversy upon its initial release. The movie, which is based on a true story, shook the world with violent scenes including a young girl being possessed. As the movie was based a lot around religion, the Catholic Church called for the movie to be banned due to it not being suitable for a wide audience. The movie was banned from home media release in the UK, with its ban only being lifted after its 25th anniversary. However, this did come with an 18 certificate, which is the highest form of certification in the UK. Friday the 13th, the final chapter, 1984. One entry that may come as a bit of a shock is Friday the 13th, the final chapter. Originally meant to be the last entry in the franchise, hence the name, the film follows a young Tommy Jarvis and his encounter with Jason. The movie was banned in Australia, Sweden and West Germany. It was deemed too violent, causing the decision to be made to ban the movie in the 3 countries. Although we have stepped away from finding these themes as offensive, and with movies since being released that have exceeded the level of violence shown in the film, it is hard to believe that these bans were made. Grotesque, 2009. Based on a couple who get kidnapped and severely tortured by a disturbed individual, Grotesque certainly pushes boundaries. With scenes of both male and female SA, mutilation and severe violence, the movie was banned in the UK and Norway. The movie shows less character development and focuses more on the violent themes and how far boundaries can be pushed. The UK refused to certify the movie due to this very reason, which the director took pride in, as this is what he set out to do, wanting to push moralists and cause upset. Salò or the 120 Days of Sodom, 1975. Salò or the 120 Days of Sodom has been banned in numerous countries including the UK, Australia and New Zealand. Whilst these bans have now been lifted, the themes of SA, violence and psychological torture, largely aimed towards adolescents, proved to be too much for many. Although the movie was not banned in the United States, it did receive a limited release. The movie still disturbs viewers today as the scenes shown are upsetting and triggering to some individuals, which understandably makes the movie a hard watch. Braindead, 1992. A comical horror movie, Braindead, or Dead Alive as it is known in the US, is a zombie movie which follows the events after a woman is bitten by a rat monkey, which turns her into a zombie. Although the UK is usually strict when it comes to ratings of movies, the BBFC initially wanted to release the movie as a 15 due to the comical aspects. However, it was decided that an 18 certificate was more fitting due to the extent of the gore. The UK version was also released in full without any cuts. However, the same cannot be said for South Korea, Singapore and Finland, who outright banned the movie, although Finland have since allowed its release. The film has gone on to be a part of the inspiration for Shaun of the Dead, one of the most beloved zombie comedy movies. Cannibal Holocaust, 1980. Notably, one of the most recognised banned horror movies is Cannibal Holocaust. The themes in this movie are enough to disturb a person with even the strongest tolerance to gore and violence. The movie has been banned in the UK, Finland, the US, Norway, Australia, Iceland and Italy, plus many other countries. The film itself shows extreme SA scenes, which includes the SA scene of a younger girl. The girl who played this role was completely unaware of what was happening, as she did not speak English and had never seen a camera or car before, as she lived in the local village to where the movie was filmed. Due to her being unaware, her reaction to what was happening was genuine, which makes this scene even more disturbing. There are a lot of questionable choices which were made during the production of the movie, which can be viewed as unethical and equally as disturbing as the scenes portrayed. The realness of the movie caused the director to be arrested and charged with murder. During the production of the movie, 7 animals were also killed, including 2 monkeys who were eaten by the indigenous cast members. Both on-screen and off-screen, the movie has proven to be one that has pushed the limits of many and has ended up being so disturbing it has received heavy criticism and backlash. Human Centipede 2, the full sequence, 2011. 2011 saw the release of Human Centipede 2. The British Board of Film Classification, however, decided to prohibit the full sequence in the UK because they believed the film would violate the Obscene Publications Act. The Act itself prohibits any work that may corrupt those who are likely to see them. The movie follows an Englishman who becomes infatuated with the first movie. He is inspired by this and he fantasises of making his own human centipede, which comes to fruition. The themes of the movie include SA, gore and violence, and depicts a fatal injury upon a newborn baby. These scenes were disturbing to watch and to this day remain uncomfortable for many. The UK ban was lifted after over 30 editing cuts were made and a certificate of 18 was granted to the picture. However, Bans for this were not only made in the UK, it was also banned in New Zealand and Australia for similar reasons. The Texas Chainsaw Massacre, 1974. What has now become a classic in the horror genre was not initially received with open arms. With scenes of gruesome violence and threat towards defenseless women, the Texas Chainsaw Massacre was banned in multiple countries. The level of terror was so intense that it was denied certification in numerous locations and remained this way for decades. Countries which had initially banned the movie included the UK, Ireland, France, Norway and Brazil, plus more. Despite its rocky start, the Texas Chainsaw Massacre is known as one of the best horror movies of all time, expanding into a franchise and growing a huge fan base across the world. Saw 6, 2009. Despite the franchise's popularity, Saw 6 was not entirely welcomed. Released in 2009, Saw 6 is centred around jigsaw attacks being instructed by John Kramer from his grave. The movie has some truly gruesome deaths which proved to be too much for Thailand and Malaysia, who banned the movie completely. They weren't the only countries to have issues with Saw 6's brutality, however, as Spain's release of the movie was delayed due to issues surrounding the rating of the film and concerns that it was glorifying violence. The movie was eventually released in Spain the following year when a rating had been agreed after cuts were made. A Clockwork Orange, 1972. Whilst there are debates as to whether or not A Clockwork Orange belongs in the horror genre, the movie is filled with horrifying scenes made for nightmares. The graphic violence, gruesome brutality and SA themes prove to be problematic for the now well-respected classic. It is due to its rawness and depictions of these themes that there were serious concerns around its release. However, this is not what got the movie banned, at least not in the UK. The director Stanley Kubrick withdrew the movie from circulation after it had been distributed as he was receiving death threats. Kubrick was living in England at the time and feared for his and his family's lives due to this. The initial concerns over the movie's release were also justified, as there were some attacks that happened which were inspired by scenes in the movie. A Clockwork Orange also caused controversy with its advertising and was also banned in Ireland, Singapore, South Africa, Brazil and Malta. The Evil Dead, 1981. Due to its depictions of violence, The Evil Dead was banned for its graphic nature. Whilst there have been movies released since which exceed the gruesomeness shown, for its time The Evil Dead was one of the most shocking displays of on-screen horror. The movie follows a group of friends who go on a trip to a cabin in the woods. Their trip ends up being one made out of nightmares as they find a book called the Nekronomicon, also known as the Book of the Dead, and one by one they slowly start to become possessed. This leaves the surviving member of the group, Ash, to defend for himself against the demonic versions of his group. With severe violence, a bizarre scene where an SA is carried out by a tree, and with extremely gory scenes, the movie proved to be too much for Finland, Ukraine and Singapore, who banned the film. The UK censored the movie, which eventually led to a video ban and further cuts. The movie has since been fully released in the UK and has been certified as 18, however it still remains banned in some countries. Antichrist, 2009. Since its release in 2009, Antichrist has been criticised for its violence and sexual content. After being initially approved in France, a ban on the movie was granted 7 years after its release due to a Catholic traditionalist group taking the movie to court. With scenes of genital mutilation, its treatment of women, and the mixed messages the movie was sending out, the French court agreed that it was a mistake to initially approve the movie. However, this decision was overturned in 2023 and the movie was once again passed, this time with a certificate of 18. Last House on the Left, 1972. Unlike its remake, The Last House on the Left is another movie banned for its violence and SA content. Based around two girls who have been abducted, tortured and brutally abused by a gang before being murdered, the movie does not hold back on the graphicness of some of its scenes. This ultimately led to its ban in the UK, Australia and New Zealand. Numerous cuts were made before the movie was finally permitted in all countries, and it was released in 2003 in the UK and 2004 in New Zealand and Australia. The UK also later approved of an uncut version released in 2008. These weren't the only countries to make cuts, however, as a number of edits had to be made before it could be released in the US, much to Wes Craven's dislike. Hostel, Part 2, 2007. Part 2 of the Hostel series had censorship issues from the moment its advertising began. Complaints were made when the first poster for the movie was released, as it was deemed too graphic, which led to the poster's withdrawal. Upon the movie's release, New Zealand banned the uncensored version for being too brutal, and the movie was only permitted after cuts were made. Germany is another country that made edits to the movie, with over 2 minutes being cut from the theatrical version. However, the film has not only been subjected to cuts, it has also been banned in Iran, Ukraine, and Malaysia. Frankenstein, 1931. Frankenstein is now considered to be a classic horror movie which seems to have remained timeless. At over 90 years old, the movie has a certain charm about it whilst remaining creepy throughout. However, the movie has not always been seen in this light and was banned in countries such as Northern Ireland, China, Sweden, Italy, and Czechoslovakia. The film was considered to be gruesome and distasteful, and Dr. Frankenstein's self-comparison to God was looked upon as blasphemous. His monster accidentally drowning a little girl was also seen as inappropriate. Despite its critiques and negative comments from some, Frankenstein has left a long-lasting impact on the horror genre, and the monster himself is now known as one of the greatest horror icons. Possession, 1981. A psychological horror, Possession follows a divorced couple and their experience with doppelgangers. The movie has themes some would find distressing, including mentions of miscarriage and the act of unaliving. There is plenty of blood and murder, which adds to the movie's violent nature. The movie made it to the UK's banned list, however it was eventually released years after in 2000. The initial reception was mixed and it was not received as one of the better movies of its time. However, it has since gathered a cult following which has brought new life to the movie shown. The Devils, 1971. Sometimes a great cast does not guarantee that a movie will be received well. This was certainly the case with The Devils. The movie follows a religious setting with a priest being accused of witchcraft. It also depicts sexually frustrated and repressed nuns who become overly sexual with their actions. Due to this, the movie was not at all received well by those in the religious field, and it was condemned by the Vatican. It received negative criticism due to its overly sexualized content, which was deemed outrageous and pornographic. This led to the movie being heavily censored. Warner Brothers made 2 big cuts before submitting the movie to the BBFC, which removed 2 scenes which included self-pleasure and the sexual defilement of the statue of Christ. Although there were cuts made to the British version, the movie was still released under an 18 certificate. However, this did not mean that the movie was fully welcomed in the UK, as 17 local councils across Britain banned the movie. The Devils is known as one of the most controversial movies of all time and has certainly left its mark in cinematic history. Freaks, 1932. Whilst it has been debated that the movie does not follow in usual horror genre manner, Freaks was banned in the UK for 31 years due to its themes. Set in a circus, the movie follows a group of performers who are classed as outsiders and freaks due to their appearance, especially by one of the performers' wives who is classed as normal looking. There are certainly some disturbing scenes with violence and body mutilation. However, it is the movie's interpretation of the Great Depression, which was happening when the movie released, that caused great conflict. Critics compared the movie and characters with the class separation that was being experienced through this time, writing that the movie was asking a Depression audience to identify with sideshow mutations and underclass. The movie was ultimately banned in the UK due to alarming content and its display of physical disability, which was deemed to be too explicit. In 1963, Freaks' ban was lifted after numerous attempts. It has since gone on to inspire numerous projects, including the 4th season of American Horror Story with Freak Show. Nekromantik, 1987. Nekromantik is heavily based on the theme of necrophilia and a couple who share sick fantasies surrounding this. It is easily a stomach-turning story, with some scenes being truly disturbing. There is also a scene with animal abuse, which adds to the questionable choices made in the movie. While there was some positivity towards the movie and its message, it is to no surprise that this movie has been banned in numerous countries. Germany temporarily banned the sale of the film, but not until there was controversy over the movie's sequel. Australia, New Zealand, the UK and Finland made bans to the movie, however these have since been lifted. The film remains banned in Iceland, Malaysia, Singapore, the provinces of Nova Scotia and also in Ontario. Mother's Day, 1980. This is another SA revenge slasher that has been banned, following in suit from movies such as I Spit on Your Grave. It follows 3 women who are kidnapped by a sadistic family. One of the women is tortured and brutally essayed, but the 3 manage to escape. However, the woman dies from her injuries, leading her friends to seek revenge on the family. The movie's main criticism was for its depiction of violence towards women, which drowned out any talent or dark humour in the movie. It was described as graphic, vile and backwards. The UK rejected the film when it was released due to its themes. However, in the mid-2000s it started to be shown on television and was eventually unbanned for home media in 2015. Australia released the movie uncut at its release. However, they later banned the movie after reviewing it 5 years later. Evilspeak, 1981. The biggest controversy surrounding Evilspeak was its satanic themes. When a student at a military academy finds a book on black magic, strange things begin to happen, which leads to gruesome deaths with plenty of gore. However, due to its satanic rituals and the gore shown, the UK banned the movie as a part of the Video Recordings Act. However, it was released in 1987 with over 3 minutes cut from the film. It wasn't until 2004 that the movie was released uncut in the UK. The Bunny Game, 2011. For a low-budget movie, The Bunny Game gained great recognition, winning many awards. However, with big recognition comes the chance of negative reception as well. The Bunny Game follows a prostitute who is kidnapped, physically and mentally abused, and subjected to SA. The movie has been described as one of the most disturbing films of all time and has also received some negative comments, some stating it is not a movie experience worth having. In the UK, movie certifications are known to be tough, and due to this, the movie was not passed for release in the UK because of its graphic nature of SA and physical abuse. Hate Crime, 2012. A movie which is full of hard subject matters, it is to no surprise that this film was banned in the UK. A Jewish family's home is broken into by neo-Nazis who subject the family to torture, SA, incest and other horrific acts. The UK refused to certify the movie due to the themes and the racist nature, which would go against the BBFC's guidelines and would risk potential harm, which the board deemed to be unacceptable. The director, James Cullen-Bressak, was honoured by this ban and enjoyed the fact that his mind was too twisted for the UK. Faces of Death, 1978. Presented as a documentary, Faces of Death has been recognised as a deeply disturbing movie which has been banned in numerous countries. It's claimed to have been banned in 46 countries, however there is some doubt over this. The movie displays what some would describe as sickening scenes of death, some of which referring to the Holocaust and Nazi behaviour. Its aim was to show the multiple faces of death, how people die and the different reasons for why people kill. It also has scenes of animal cruelty. Naturally, these scenes depicted extremely distressing situations such as unaliving and murder. Although the deaths were acted out and not actual footage of people dying, the film proved to be too much for many. In the UK, the movie faced prosecution and was added to the Video Nasties list. It was also deemed to go against the Obscene Publications Act. In 2003, the movie was released on DVD in the UK. However, for this to happen, over 2 minutes of cuts were made, which included some scenes of animal cruelty. Alongside the UK, Australia and New Zealand also banned the film, and Germany made heavy cuts for it to be distributed. The reception of Faces of Death was as expected, very poor, and was tagged as crude, tasteless exploitation footage. A Serbian Film, 2010. Banned in 46 countries, A Serbian Film is known as one of the most banned horror movies of all time. It pushes boundaries with severe violence and SA of all ages, including minors. The story told in the movie is not one to discuss as it is so horrific. The content in the movie was so graphic and stomach-churning that a director of a film festival where it was being shown was arrested for screening the movie due to its actions towards children. It is enough to turn the strongest person's stomach and is not a movie for the faint-hearted. So as always, what do you guys think? Do you know of any other horror movies which were banned? Let me know down in the comments section. If you have enjoyed this video, please like, subscribe and switch on that notifications button as I will be uploading more content like this. Thank you so much for watching. You can check out my other content here. With that being said, I will see you in the next video.